Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and I am so honored when we have a chance to sit down with my good friend, David Kupelian. David is the managing editor of WorldNet Daily, a great resource, and you should go there daily. WorldNetDaily.com is the website. There's a picture of the landing page. Really a frontline news operation that keep you informed of all the latest things going on. He's also authored many books, The Marketing of Evil, How Evil Works, and then The Snapping of the American Mind, just to mention a few. You can go to go to WorldNet Daily, WND.com, and check out all of the things there, including his books. David, good to see you, buddy. How are you?
I am good, Perry, because God is good. That's always my answer.
Last time you were here, it was pre-election, and we were, you know, all ratched up. Now it's post-election, and he won. What's your take?
I think the euphoria has been in two stages. One has been the election. Mm-hmm. We were saved from, I mean, we talked about it. It was unthinkable what America was looking at, with Kamala Harris and all that. So the election, everybody was euphoric over that. And then we had Inauguration Day. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that Trump, all his rallies, would say, we're going to change this and we're going to do that. We're going to do it very quickly. You know, and that could just have been like, you know, Trump talk, like, you're going to be tired of winning, you're going to win so much, you know, we're going to do it very quickly. Okay, but he really meant it. He, from Election Day to Inauguration Day, there's, what, 2.5 months or something? And he's down at Mar-a-Lago putting his team together, putting the program together, queuing up all of these executive orders and everything else they're going to do. So when Inauguration Day comes, it's great, great speech, all the balls, and then bam, it's like rapid fire blitzkrieg of, I think he signed 40 or some executive orders on the first day, but everything else, all the people, the programs, so he wasn't joking when he said very quickly. Yeah.
So here we are. It's happening faster than, quite frankly, the news can cover it in some ways. And it is all good. But I think we need to understand executive orders or reversal of a lot of things that President Biden did. They only last of the term of the president. They can be overturned. But do you think he's thinking that a lot of these executive orders will morph into policies, which morphs into precedents, and they stay in place?
Oh, absolutely, because I think the public, including probably some Democrats, are behind him with some of these things, like the Lake and Riley Act that was actually a law that was signed yesterday. But the executive orders where he's saying, nah, I don't think we want to be cutting healthy body parts off of our children anymore. And so he's got some things that are, you know, eliminating, you know, federal funding, but that going further to actually prohibit that, because it's evil.
Yes, it
okay?
is.
And I think most Americans agree with that. Right. They are intimidated, they're afraid by the woke culture. Oh, you're anti-trans or anti-whatever. But I think a good part of the things that he's doing, we're going to find have broad appeal, you know, and therefore they can turn into policies or into law or whatever needs to come next.
Okay, where do you think this has left us spiritually?
I think, Perry,
and I realize that's a big question, David, because you and I have talked about all the problems and the weaknesses of the church up to this moment, but it appears to me that God has given us another chance. Do you think we see this, or do we still showcase this in politics?
You have to be very dense to not see this as God's hand. You know, I wrote an article last week about this, and I ended up quoting up Eric Metaxas, the Christian broadcaster and author of a lot of big books and stuff. And I think he had the 2 attempted assassinations of Trump in mind when he said this. But he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, Trump should be dead and America should be dead. But it's only because of the love of a great and merciful God that we are here now. And he is alive, and he won the election, and we have a chance to wax poetic, to start the world all over again. Okay? I think a lot of people look at this and they feel like it's a dream almost, okay? Because again, you know, you and I were in the news business. I'm paid to be immersed in all the nasty stuff that's going on. You know, that's really a lot of what, you know, a mother reads her child bedtime stories, that's not news. If she kills her children, that's news. It's all the dark stuff that becomes news. So seeing what was happening with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who in many ways is even worse, okay, if you know anything about him. These are like two of the worst people like ever, okay, and they're going to become president and vice president. And you know, thinking like the way I do and projecting forward, the kind of evil and crime and, quote, mental illness and people just imploding that would have happened in America had they been in charge. The kind of mentality people have when you have mass shooters. They say, I am sick of this, and I'm going out. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going out with a bang. I'm taking a lot of people with me. That is exactly how a lot of the mass shooters think. They have little manifestos and stuff. And I say you would have seen a whole lot more of that, you know, if you had these people as president, vice president. So we were spared that. Okay, so the spiritual state of Americans, I would say a lot of people are just like you and me, and probably most of the people listening, are incredibly grateful to a great and merciful God that he allowed Trump and Vance to be elected, to not be assassinated, first of all, and to be elected and to take over and to do all these amazing things, pretty much all of which I think a majority of Americans who voted for him, okay, you know, they agree with. So we are blessed.
Okay, so given the fact that the numbers ended up being the margins ended up being bigger than anybody anticipated, he's the first Republican to win the popular vote in addition to the electoral vote, both in substantial amounts. The point being is it appeared that in spite of the montage of the left media and the left in general, something was brewing in the soul of America that said, no, we don't want this.
I would like to believe that. I got to take like the big view of it. It is the Christian vote. Remember, 68% of Americans are Christians. There's more Christians in this country than any other country in the world, okay? And so statistically, he got 72 million in some popular votes, and Harris got 70 million. So on the one hand, you say, yeah, a lot of Christians came out and voted for him, okay? On the other hand, Perry, 70 million votes for the person who Elon Musk said she was actually a communist, okay? And he backed it up. There's a reason why you can say that. That means a lot of Christians, air quotes, voted for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who are like the most anti-Christian, you know, candidates really ever that I can think of in my lifetime.
I'm not trying to justify their vote, but do you think some of that is just sheer ignorance, not passion?
It's ignorance. It's listening to the media saying Trump is Hitler, and if Trump is Hitler, then anything, even if they think, okay, she's obviously, sorry, an idiot, okay, she can't put two sentences together, but she's not Hitler. So I think there was some of that, and I think there was, yes, there was a tradition. It's like, you know, there were a lot of people who voted because, look, I used to have a relative when I was a kid. He said, I'll vote for a Democrat even if it's a snake. I'll vote for him because the Republicans are all bad. So there was some of that, yes.
Okay. All right, so here we are on the other side of this. I'm wondering if, and the church through all of this, the last 4 years has been politicized. 18 major denominations split down the middle over the last 4 years, primarily over the LGBTQ issues, wokeness and all that. But do you think now that we're on the other side of the election, here we are, the danger of us saying, whew, we dodged a bullet, pardon the pun, and we can just go back being American Christians? Now, I asked that question in the shadow of my board and on this ministry, saying to ourselves, wow, we better get busy and really preach the gospel.
Amen to that. Again, the 68%, 2 out of 3 Americans who self-identify as Christians, you have, I think some of the best people in the world are Christians living in America, okay? I love this country, I love the people, okay? There are a lot of good people. You do have a lot of people for whom Christianity is a garb, a social garb. You can go online and search out the religious affiliation of every member of Congress, of the House and the Senate. Virtually all of them claim to be Christians. There's a couple Hindus and maybe this and an atheist or whatever, okay, but they're all Christians, right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a Christian, okay? Harris and Walsh are both Christians, okay? These are people that love abortion at the moment of birth, which used to be called infanticide, okay? And all the rest of the insane, woke, left-wing agenda. You know, Joe Biden, who's, you know, a devout Catholic, you always heard that, he's a devout Catholic. He was in favor of not just abortion, but abortion at any time, which means, and by the way, you'll hear lies about this, there are a pretty good number, not a majority, but there are many, many children in this country who are aborted when they're totally viable, pain-feeling, beautiful, sacred little babies, late-term babies. Okay, this happens in America. You cannot be for that and be a genuine Christian. Sorry. But so where this leads to is that there's the religious left, as they call it. The day after inauguration, Trump and Vance went to the National Cathedral. I grew up in D.C. This is an immense, amazing building, Episcopal Church. It's one of the iconic churches in America, the National Cathedral. And here's this this woman preacher up there who's lecturing Trump and Vance and their families about how now all the LGBTQ and transgender children are going to be fearful for their lives. You know, and all the illegal aliens who do all the real work in this country. They're the ones who do our laundry and, you know, wash the dishes, the restaurants we eat at. Why do we need to send them back? And so there is that. There is the whole, they call it liberation theology, which is Marxism disguised as Christianity. A lot of people accuse our current Pope of that. If you remember, Pope Francis, and by the way, I sometimes listen to EWTN, you know, they openly, this is the Eternal Word television network, Catholic, they openly criticize the Pope. It's not like, oh, we have to pretend the Pope is perfect. That's very normal. He, last year, before the election, was saying, you're going to have to choose your evil between Trump and Harris, okay? Because Harris is pro-abortion and the Pope is anti-abortion, okay? However, Trump doesn't want to, you know, welcome the stranger. He's trying to send immigrants out of the country. Yeah, this is straight up liberation theology, where they take a few scriptures about welcoming the stranger and so forth, and that means you can have like tens of thousands of convicted murderers and rapists come in our country, but oh, you know, the stranger, welcome the stranger, we shouldn't send them back. That's what the current Pope is doing. So you've got all types.
One little point on that, and I'll take a break and come back, but there's another point on this. The Catholic Church never really did condemn President Biden for his stance on abortion. You just said that President Biden was for abortion at any time, anywhere in the gestation and even post-birth. Okay, and yet the Catholic Church never condemned him. The cardinals never condemned him, which leaves, and I just read an article, the Catholic Church may be in a real quandary, because if Pope Francis decides to step down and his health isn't good, either way, and they go into a conclave, those cardinals in there may be of the mindset of this current Pope, and we're going to get another one. Is that ring with you at all?
It's always a concern, you know. It's such a powerful force, for good or not, in the world, the Roman Catholic Church, and because it's so top down, okay, as opposed to most of the rest of Christianity.
Well, but the other part of it is that they're also on the verge of bankruptcy. So the true dedicated Catholic isn't supporting the church because they don't like the policies of this Pope. So they got a problem.
You know, again, if I listen to some of these people on the EWTN, and they're talking about, like, we've had bad popes in history. They go back way back.
And this is one of them?
Yeah, they don't really say that quite yet, okay?
Yeah.
But they do openly say, they don't pretend because he's the Holy Father and all the rest, that they are real world enough to say, yeah, we've had some real bad popes there. So, yeah, they have a conflict with
All right,
it,
I want to
sure.
come back and deal with the subject really at hand here. Do you think, and I'll ask a question, you can think about it through the break. Here we are on the other side of the election. The church has been divided through all of this. You just made an excellent explanation of how the Christian left thinks. I'm wondering if overall, if I could be really specific just for a moment, David, has the Christian left, I don't know if that's an oxymoron, but is the Christian left blind, immune, or completely pain-free of evil? We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Always a delight to have David Kupelian with us today. He's the managing editor of WorldNetDaily.com, one of the great websites out there for you to go to. There's a picture of the landing page. He's authored quite a few books, several of them, in fact, all of them you ought to read, but The Marketing of Evil, How Evil Works, is so well written. There's a picture of the cover of the book, and The Snapping of the American Mind. That was another book that put my brain on tilt by David Kupelian. You go to WND.com, check out not only the website and the news stories, but also the publications. So, David, when we were going into the break, I was asking the question, you're calling it the Christian left, which is a definition of people on the left who believe that they are Christians. But have they been given an injection of Novocaine spiritually that they can't see the evil of just taking the life of the unborn?
I don't mean to cop out on the answer, but it's both, okay? You asked me before the break.
Yeah.
Is it this or is it this? We use the psychological term sociopath, okay? That's basically a conscienceless person. These are the Hillary Clinton type people that can look right into a TV camera, which means look into the eyes of millions of people and lie. And know they're lying and have no conflict about it.
Okay.
And if you put them on a polygraph, they probably wouldn't show anything because they don't have that conscience conflict operating anymore.
So their conscience is severed, it's been seared. Okay.
But there are a lot of people who are fooled. There's a book recently written called Shepherds for Sale by Megan Basham, who works for the Daily Wire.
Right.
And she goes through kind of chapter by chapter and explains how these left-wing nonprofits and so forth have suckered in the Christians, but liberal left Christians into supporting the left-wing causes. Okay, so for instance, they get you suckered into supporting the insane global warming agenda, which is why California has been on fire, because there's no water there because they're trying to save a little fish that nobody's ever seen somewhere. Okay, but they call it creation care. Oh, that sounds cool. That sounds kind of like biblical creation care. Okay, and they have for every agenda item of the left, they have a way of couching it, just like. I forget what the phrase is, but for immigration, it's like what we talked about with the Pope. It's like we're welcoming the stranger. Well, that's in the Bible, you know? So these 13,000 convicted murderers from prisons in the Congo and Venezuelan gangs, Tren de Aragua, and all these, MS-13, which is now officially a satanic group. It's not just an evil gang, it's actually a Satan-worshiping group. Those are all our neighbors. We need to allow them in because the Bible says so. So, yeah, you have to kind of scratch your head and say, well, can't they see through that, but there are some people who just get suckered in to the left-wing take on this because they want to feel like good people and they want to be compassionate. And I know, like you talk about abortion, they're talking about the mother. the mother is saddled with this. She doesn't want to have this baby, or she's financially troubled, or this, or that. Excuse me. Have the baby and put the baby up for adoption. Okay. There is. This is what the pro-lifers will tell you. There is a solution. Okay. It's not like having an abortion is entirely without trauma. You want to have a happy life. Have the baby, and you will not go through life with guilt and regret. This is what any pro-life counselor is telling these women. So, yeah, Perry, it's both. The left comprises all. You have, like I say, the hardcore, really just evil people. We see a lot of them in public life. They say, how can they possibly think that and say that? Okay, but then the voters, all the voters that voted for, you know, Harris and Walz, like I said, some of them were convinced that, you know, Trump is Hitler, and so we can't have Hitler. And some were like, well, you know, I'm sympathetic to, you know, guns kill people. You'd see, before the election, you see like parents of Sandy Hook victims saying, my 7-year-old son was killed in Sandy Hook. Would you please sign a petition to ban assault rifles? And you watch this and you just like weep for this father. You're not like condemning him. Oh no, you're not. You're wrong. Okay, it's sad. You're sad for his loss. So there are. I believe there are good people that get suckered into this.
So what do you think, David, was the tipping point in this election that allowed Trump not only to survive everything that was thrown at him, lawfare to bullets, that the American people said, no, we can't go any further, and where we're going to give this guy a try in spite of all the bad press. What do you think was the tipping point?
I think you just answered it. It was the lawfare and the bullets, okay? To have, you know, Trump being shot, and again, we're talking about 1/4 to 1/2 inch difference. He hadn't turned his head. Everybody's heard the story umpteen times. He turned his head to look at that, his favorite chart. I love that chart. So it's okay. And bullet would have gone through his brain. It would have been one of the traumas of the century for the whole world to see Donald Trump assassinated, his head blown up on live TV. Okay, we were spared that. And a lot of people, including Trump, said this was an act of God. Hannity interviewed him the other night, and he said, did you believe that you came closer to God as a result? He said, yeah, absolutely. You know, so a lot of people saw that. They saw the wickedness on the other side, and they frankly saw the emptiness and the evil, frankly, of the other candidates. You know, and they just. And I believe overshadowing it all really was an act of God. I really totally believe in my heart that a merciful God said, I'm going to give you a reprieve, a chance you don't even deserve, okay, but I'm going to do this incredible miracle and give you this.
There's a history of that, God's mercy for people that didn't deserve it. It's called the trip between Egypt and the Promised Land.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a couple quick questions. The left press is falling apart at rates and speeds that unlike anything we've seen. There was an article out the other day that, as you know, in broadcast we look at average quarter hours and stuff like that, that CNN couldn't even pull 500,000, which is an amazing thing. Where do you think the press is going?
Well, yeah, they're totally in shock and disarray. They don't know what to do. And I don't know where they're going, but I believe this is part of the reason for the quickness. We're going to do this, and we're going to do it very quick. Yeah. It's not just, we're going to make America great again, we're going to do it quickly. That's great, just in and of itself, if there was nothing else. But I think Trump knows that time is short, not just politically, where you have 2 years before the midterm elections where you could lose the House and the Senate, because a third of the Senate is corrupt. You could lose that. But also, on a more spiritual note, time is short because things happen. I mean, look at this horrible crash, today. That's totally unrelated. That's just a tragedy that happens, okay? But it's awful things happen, okay? And evil has not disappeared from the earth or from this country, and they are going to. They lost a big battle, but the war is still ongoing, okay? And they don't we don't really know how or when they're going to come back, but they are going to try and regroup.
Yeah.
And
that was my next question before we run out of time. I don't know if the DNC is mortally wounded, but they have really got their legs kicked out from underneath them. Who's leading it? Who's the charge? Who's the banner person? Who's the face of the DNC? It seems to be totally blown up.
Yeah, I don't even care at this point. You know, they are in shock. They know that they were completely rejected by the American public. There's no talk otherwise of that. He won all 7 battleground states and the popular vote and all that. So nobody's saying, oh, but he did this and he election fraud. So they know they're rejected. So they have to kind of go away for a while and then come back. So
do you have anybody that's rising? I mean, you think Newsom's done? Governor Newsom?
We can hope.
Okay.
I don't know. He's one of the few people that's like...
But he's got California wrapped around his neck.
He seems kind of indestructible because no matter what he does, he's destroyed this most wonderful state. When you and I were kids, California was like the coolest place to be, and he's destroyed it, you know. And now the icing on the cake is like the state's burning down. Well, we don't have any water for fighting fires because of what. But he just seems, he's one of those sociopaths that seems kind of indestructible, not conflicted over all the horrible things he does.
Thank you for your time. Thanks. Good to see you.
You bet, Perry.
Let me say to our viewers and listeners, go to WND.com. There's a picture of the landing page, WorldNet Daily. They've been around a long time. They do a great job. And you can go to WND.com and then go to the book section. You can get David's books. I think you'll find The Marketing of Evil and How Evil Works. This is an amazing research. By the way, that book's probably more relevant today than it is when he wrote it. And then the other one that kind of caught my attention is called The Snapping of the American Mind. Another that I think was prophetic at the time, still is today. Check it out. Good to see you, David. God bless you, pal.
Thanks for Perry.
Okay.
Thank you so much.